That's how charity works. It's really neat. So we see the same thing also in Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 21. Romans 12, 9 through 21. And I'm going to let you read that on your own. So make note of that, Romans 12, 9 through 21. But let me just read verses 16 through 18 here. So Romans 12, verses 16 through 18, where Apostle Paul writes, be of the same mind one towards another, mind not high things, okay, but consent to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits, okay, recompense to no man evil for evil, provide things honest in the sight of all men, and if it be possible, as much as lies in you, okay, live peaceably with all men. But like I said, make reference to that whole section there, 9 through 21. So let's go on here in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. For he that will love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, okay, and his lips that they may speak no guile. Let him eschew evil and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. And who is he that will harm you if you be followers of that which is good? Okay. Let's see how much we got left here. Okay, let me go back up here to verse 10 and 11. Okay, so for he that will love life and see good days, right? In verse 10. So he says here that let him refrain his tongue from evil. Okay, let him refrain his lips, okay, from guile. Or in other words, faithless conversation, which is sympathetic to the flesh. Okay, and being sympathetic also has to do with harmony. Okay, the faithless conversation is sympathetic to the flesh. It's in agreement with the flesh. Okay, it's in harmony with the rhythm of the flesh. Okay, charity is sympathetic to Christ. Okay, and it is in harmony with God. Okay, it keeps cadence with God. Um, but faithless conversation is sympathetic to the flesh. Okay, and we refrain by by keeping our vessel full of faith through prayer, study, and offering spiritual sacrifices. Okay, so we're not talking about refraining through will worship. Okay, it's not biting the tongue. Okay, we're talking about exercising faith. Okay, use charity. Okay, to instead of faithless conversation, share forth those things which the Lord has revealed for faith, which are profitable for faith. Okay, which are in which the grace of God will enter into that knowledge to draw faith from the heart. Okay, it's profitable for godliness because through exercising your faith with that knowledge, you bring forth fruit, don't you? Now, fruit bearing has to do with godliness. There's power for fruit bearing, okay, in this knowledge and in these tools. This is why we continue to confirm Christ one to another. And it's incredible how the Lord, it's really neat. You even go back to your reflection book, right? And things that the Lord, revealed through a dream or through a vision or through some experience. Okay, the Lord impacted the soul for faith. And as you go back and you reflect back on these things that may have been, a year ago, 2 years ago, or even 10 years ago, okay, whatever the case may be, and how long you've been keeping covenant with God. Okay, as you go back and reflect upon these things, there's fresh faith being drawn from the heart. Okay, it's really neat. Okay, that power of the Spirit continues to work with these things. Okay, that this bread does not grow old, does it? Okay, it doesn't grow old. It continues to sustain us, which is absolutely incredible. Okay, and he also says here in verse 11, okay, let him eschew evil and do good. And doing good, of course, has to do with keeping covenant. Okay, exercising your faith with the sanctified tools. Okay, doing is an activity. Okay, good speaks of meeting a standard, doesn't it? Okay, there's righteousness and unrighteousness. Okay, God set the standard for faith in Christ. Saying doing good is doing that which God sees as good. Okay, or in other words, faith. Okay, keeping covenant with God. So let your activity of faith be governed by His knowledge, and joined, okay, in submission to His power. Okay, working with the things of the Spirit. Okay, that you work with the knowledge and the tools of the new covenant priesthood. Okay, that's what it means to do good, which, by the way, is how that is how we refrain, and that is how we eschew. Okay, we do it by our activity of faith. It's through the priesthood that we overcome. Okay, by faith and patience, we overcome ourselves, the world, and the devil. Okay, it's very simple. Okay? We have to work with the power of the Spirit. Okay, and we do that through the priesthood. Okay? We can't work with the power of the Spirit apart from the priesthood. Okay, because the Spirit of God works within that framework, within those boundaries. Okay, we can't just choose to stand without Christ and work with the Spirit of God. Okay, if you do so, you're embracing a lie and you're working with another spirit. Okay, that other spirit may identify itself as being the Spirit of God. You may think it's the Spirit of God, but it isn't. Okay, the Spirit of God will not work without Christ. Okay, that's not how God works. Okay, and I'm not dictating that. God dictates that. That's according to the will of God. Okay, I'm just in agreement with that. Okay, because I have subjected myself to the knowledge and the tools of the Spirit. Okay, I also had to confirm to these things which God has revealed for faith. Okay, that I had to allow truth to replace my principles. Okay, I went through the same separation and cleansing. Okay, and I show forth my faith with the same knowledge and tools, being of one mind. Okay, being of one spirit. Now, seeking peace, that has to do with allowing the knowledge of the present covenant to influence your choices of faith. Okay, that's how we seek peace. What are we seeking peace? Okay, we're not seeking peace, um, with the carnal minded. Okay, although you know we're not we're not running around beating on the beehives with sticks either. Okay, and we pray for them, but we're seeking peace with God. Okay, there's peace of God and peace with God. Okay, we're seeking both. Okay, we seek not to offend God. Okay, by working only with the knowledge and the tools that He's provided for our faith. Okay, with the fear of the Lord, that we exercise our faith only with these things. Right, that we're not looking to introduce strange fire to the priesthood. Okay, remember that from the first covenant there. Okay, the first covenant priesthood. I don't remember his name. That they offered strange fire and then were stricken down by God. Okay, but we're not seeking to offer strange fire. Right? We're not bringing our bicks to the offering of our sacrifices. Okay, it's the Lord that sets the wood in order. Okay, and it's the Lord that provides for the sacrifice. Okay, therefore we labor with the things that the Lord provides in order to please God. Okay, so we're seeking peace with knowledge and with understanding. Okay, not just we're not just trying to wing it. Okay, God has instructed us in the priesthood, and therefore we keep covenant with Him according to those instructions, don't we? So the peace of God will always be present to assist grace as it gains entrance through faith. Okay, so if you're seeking peace, what are you doing? You're seeking His grace, aren't you? Okay, well, what are the contact points that God sanctified for faith? It's government, truth, and spirit, prayer, preaching, and prophecy, gifts, callings, graces of God. Therefore, these are the things that we labor with. Okay, we've received instruction, and we understand what the contact points that God sanctified are. Therefore, we, being in submission to His grace and truth, being in submission to the headship of Christ, these are the things that we labor with, because we know that His grace is in these things. Okay, so we're not misidentifying the grace of God, are we? Right? Because we know what He's provided for our access to His grace. So as we seek peace, what are we doing? We're joining ourselves to Christ. How do we do that? Through the priesthood. Okay, Peter hasn't changed the subject. Same thing he's been talking about here. So verse 12, for the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous. Now the eyes of the Lord, that has to do with grace. Okay, grace allows us to see Him through the tethering of the Spirit. Okay, again, the Spirit is key, isn't it? Okay, the Spirit is key. And He's over the righteous. The eyes of the Lord are over the righteous. The righteous are those that are following after the Spirit, okay, which is directing their faith into the things of the present covenant. Okay, these are the righteous. What does it mean? What is righteousness? It's the standard that God set for faith. Okay, we are meeting God's expectations for faith, okay, by following after the terms and the conditions of the present covenant. Okay, God has revealed Christ to us, and we are embracing Christ as He's revealed Him to us. Okay, God has revealed which tools have been sanctified by His Spirit. These are the tools that we're laboring with. We exercise our faith with these tools. Okay, He has made known to us what the contact points of His grace are. Therefore, we're not seeking to know Him apart from those things, but by those things. Okay, and we're not choosing which of those things to emphasize, but laboring with all these things that he's provided for our faith. Okay, we're not emphasizing one over another because he hasn't emphasized one over another. Okay, as he sets our focus on Christ, so also do we keep our focus on Christ through the priesthood. Okay, that's the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous. These are the righteous. Okay, these are who Chief Apostle Peter is writing to here. Okay, not the carnal minded, not those that have refused government or despised government, despised dignities. Okay, uh, not as not as those who resist His grace. Okay, but those who are yielding, submitting themselves in willful submission to the grace of God. Okay, they're humbling themselves to His grace. Okay, and His ears are open. The Lord's ears are open to their prayers. Okay, but what's he say here? He sets a contrast, doesn't he? But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. Now, being against has to do with being concealed. Okay, they won't see the purpose or the pattern because he turns his face away from them. Okay, they won't behold Christ. Right? It's the same thing that happened with the carnal minded. Okay, they weren't meeting God's expectations by faith. Okay, they weren't working with the Spirit of God. Okay, the Spirit of grace was present to draw faith from their heart as concerning Christ. Okay, as He stood before them. But even as they were looking Jesus in the eye, okay, and seeing Him right before their face, okay, they were not able to behold the face of Christ. Okay, all they saw was the son of a carpenter. Okay, that's all they saw. All right, but the righteous beheld Christ because they were working with the Spirit of God. You see the difference? They were looking at the same person, weren't they? But they saw two different things. Okay, those of faith were looking with the eyes of the Spirit. That's the eyes of the Lord. Okay, grace allows us to see Him. Okay, grace allows us to comprehend Christ. Right? That we're not offended by the man and the method of God's selection. Okay, but the carnal-minded are. Right? They set their expectations, okay, by their own principle. Okay, and then they use that to falsely justify themselves and to condemn others. Okay, but we cannot condemn that which God has justified. Okay, which is what Apostle Peter's talking about there in verse 13. Who is he that will harm you if you be followers of that which is good? Okay, being justified by faith. But let's get back here in verse 12. So again, being against has to do with concealed. Okay. And doing evil. Okay. We see there in verse, and you might want to, connect those two. Verse 11 where he says do good, and here in verse 12 he says do evil. Right. So he's talking about two different activities. He's making a contrast here, isn't he?